No Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch had been on my playlist for some time before I finally pulled the trigger and clicked play. I had originally picked up the game due to being a very big fan of Studio Ghibli, though overall I was a bit hesitant going into the game because of this. Studio Ghibli being, well, what it is, my overall expectations were naturally pretty high in terms of story that I expected. With a bit over 2.5k Steam reviews putting the game at very positive, I knew there was a high chance I'd enjoy the game, but wasn't very sure if the story would leave the same overall impact that most of the Studio Ghibli movies I love had left on me throughout my childhood and adult life. Once I had dove into the game, I ended up clocking around 65 total hours between streaming the story and doing errands or bounties privately in my free time, which is pretty high compared to the average on how long to beat, which lists the story being about 44 hours with another 13 or so added on for side quests as the average. Since I come from a background of MMORPGs, this doesn't seem like much. However, playing it bits and pieces at a time on stream did end up stretching my playthrough longer than I had originally expected. I had hoped it would take around a month, maybe two, and I ended up having to stream it for 3 actually, with one weekend just finally going, well, I just need to finish the game, so we're just gonna finish it this weekend. Which I only bring up for those of you who might have more limited time compared to others, because if you can only play it for an hour or 2 hours, the game is going to take you a little bit longer compared to some of the games that are only a couple of hours and will take you maybe a week or 2 tops. Since this review is meant to be spoiler-free and on the shorter side, I can't go into my full thoughts on the story here. However, I will say that the story was pretty adorable, with a few twists that I didn't quite see coming and characters that all had their own personalities and motivations. I can't lie to you though and say that the story left some of the overall impacts that my favorite Studio Ghibli movies left on me, like I mentioned before. But it was enough to see the Ghibli influence in terms of a story that had some darker themes with a bittersweet ending that did leave you fulfilled. There were also some absolutely beautiful cutscenes done in the Ghibli style art. I'm talking about you, Hamlin, as well as some absolutely gorgeous music to tie in all of the different elements of this game. Basically, following Oliver and crew on their journey to save our world was a very wonderful experience for me in the long run. Those who enjoy heroes overcome all stories that don't really mind themes of depression, heartbreak, and loss would probably really like this game. Though I will warn folks going into it that the combat style does have a slow ramp up. It feels very awkward at the start until you get to a boss or 2 in, and the combat finally takes off with the ability to capture or tame different familiars. You can think somewhat Pokemon when you think of the combat style, where specific familiar types boost well with certain handlers, you capture them out in the open wild, and then you basically level them up until they evolve, or in this case, until you evolve them by giving them a special type of food. From there, the boss fights become more and more creative as the difficulty increases. Don't worry though, the game does feature 2 modes if you're just looking to enjoy the story and not looking for something overly difficult. There is a normal mode and also one meant for simply looking to experience the story with pretty easy mechanics. As a side note about the combat, several of my friends and viewers commented that the overall style of the combat wasn't quite what they were interested in when looking at games, though they did enjoy watching me play through it. So keep that in mind if you are looking to pick it up and give the combat a fair shake, because it does have a slow introduction before deciding whether or not you want to continue with the game. Overall, would I recommend this game though? Yes, I would for the story alone, because the journey it takes you on is quite beautiful. Add in the world, the gorgeous music, the art style, and the pretty dazzling boss fights, and you get a truly lovable game. If you do pick up No Kuni, Wrath of the White Witch based on my recommendation, I hope that you'll leave your comments and thoughts below so that we can discuss the game. Or, even better, join the Discord. I'll link it below also. We have a very small but lovable community forming that talks about games and story and anime and fandoms and, just generally enjoys each other's time. So please join the Discord, like if you enjoyed this review, subscribe if you'd like to see my next video, and of course, we'll see you next time.